this is the old view of the economics. The old view said what? That economics exists as a science to solve the economic problem. Today, to the production of goods and services. But today is not sufficient. We want what? We want that the economics contribute to the well-being of society. And if we think to the well-being of society, of course, it's not sufficient to create useful goods and services. We want something more. We want that the economics contribute to the common good, to the well-being of all humans. That's why we decided to introduce the concept of primary interest of the Azienda that is connected to the Italian doctrine Economia Aziendale. The advantage that we have with the Economia Aziendale is that we have two aspects that are at the same level, the economic aspect and the social aspect. So we can say that is a way we can solve the economic problems and also the problems that are connected with social issues. Now, let's go to the concept of primary interest of the Azienda. So here we simply recall the three attributes of the Azienda: systemic vision, decision-making autonomy, and economicità. Economicità is remember, is a method of action. Why we have to operate with economicità? We have to operate with the economicità because we have to fix winning objective, or better, winning goals. And winning goals are those goals that allow us to achieve the finalism of the Azienda, or the objective of the Azienda. So the goals are winning goals when they really can orient the Azienda towards its finalism. But it's not enough because, when we fix goals, remember, according to what I said before, we don't have just economic goals. We have also social goals. So today, firms have to pay attention to both the economic aspect and social aspect. The most difficult thing is to find an equilibrium. So for what concerns social aspect, so as a firm, as a business entity, I know that I have to contribute to the well-being of society. But what is a limit that I cannot overcome? So the limit is established by the economic view of the Azienda. There are some things that you can solve, some social problems that you can solve, especially when solving these social problems, you can improve also the economic aspect of the business. But there are some social problems that you cannot solve as a business entity. Sometimes there are some other entities that are not business entities, for instance, foundations, associations, or the state, that solve the other problems that firms, business entities cannot solve. How can they do that? Because, for instance, for what concerns the state has resources from the collectivity and uses the money of the collectivity also to solve social problems. Sometimes there are problems that are not solved by business entities nor by the state. So in this case, these problems are solved by the so-called third sector. So for non-for-profit organizations, they are all Azienda, but they have all to solve problems of humans. Now, here we say that when we refer to the Azienda, we have business entities and non-business entities. Within the non-business entities, so do you remember what is the difference between business entities and non-business entities? Yeah?
Business entities operate in the market.
Good. So they remember business entities operate in the market. Can a business entity be controlled by the state? Yes. Good. Very good. So I have a business entity that is controlled by the state, but it operates in the market. And non-business entities are those entities that do not operate in the market. For instance, when they acquire the factories or productions, or when they pull the production in the environment. For instance, in case of local government, the local government gives some services for free. So what is the purpose? So today there is a huge debate about what is the purpose of the organization. No more shareholder theory, no more profit maximization. So, and we totally agree with that idea, but the risk is that if we say no more profit maximization, no, we want to say profit, because profit is a dirty word. What is the problem? That if we focus the attention on business entities, the risk is that we marginalize the conditions that allow business entities to survive and grow. For sure, profit is important. It's not the purpose. The purpose for all organizations, both business and non-business entities, is that they have to they have to make an effort to produce useful goods and services to satisfy human needs. This is the same, so the same purpose. This is the, I think, one of the main contributors of the economia aziendale. The economia aziendale wants to focus the attention on some principles that are common, not differences from business and non-business entities. All organizations have to contribute to the common good. First of all, producing useful goods and services. Remember that the primary interest of the Azienda is an interest that, when achieved, allow the organizations to contribute to the common good. Here, we are simply defining what is, for us, the common good. Otherwise, what is the risk? That we say common good, we have to contribute to the common good, but what is the idea that we have a common good? So, for sure, the idea that I have a common good is different from your ideas. Here, we are trying to define what is a common good, according to the Italian doctrine Economia Aziendale. So, this is the first part, and the second part is fundamental. Why? It's fundamental because it's connected to a condition that organizations, Aziende, has to achieve in order to survive and grow. So if I want to solve problems producing goods and services, not just today, but also tomorrow, and if, for me, not only the actual stakeholders, but also future stakeholders are important, I have to achieve this condition of survival and growth. And this condition of survival and growth is what? Creating value, sustainable value. So we have to satisfy needs, creating sustainable value. While we are producing something, we have to create sustainable value. Now here the problem, we have to specify better, otherwise it's just theory. You cannot apply this theory in the real world. So we have to specify all the elements of the value creation condition. So first of all, we have to give an answer to the question for whom we have to create value, and the answer is for the Azienda itself. So we start from the Azienda. If you really want to, as a person, if you really want to create value for others, you have first of all think to yourself. So I want to create value for myself in order to grow, to flourish, and when I have all the goods, I can distribute the goods to the others. So the Azienda has to create value for itself and for stakeholders. And there is a strong connection between value creation for the Azienda and value creation for its stakeholders. If the Azienda wants to create value for itself, it has, of course, to also to think to value creation of stakeholders, because stakeholders are important for the growth of the Azienda. If you want to grow, of course, you have to be connected with others. It's impossible to grow being alone. We need to stay in a community, because the community allows us to grow. This is the same. So the Azienda has to, of course, if the Azienda wants really to create value for itself, has to create value for stakeholders. It's the same for stakeholders. If stakeholders want to create value for themselves, they also have to create value for the firm. Because if the firm doesn't exist because of some difficulties, economic or financial difficulties, and the firm doesn't exist, it cannot create value for stakeholders. So there is a strong connection. This is exactly what happened in every type of community. So remember that in this model, we don't have the the pure idea of capitalism. According to the capitalism, who is more important, individuals or the community, or better, the collectivity? Individuals. So the interest of individuals prevails on the interest of collectivity. So according to the capitalist country, we said what? That if you try to maximize your self-interest without thinking to the collectivity, just satisfy your personal interest, you will also contribute in an indirect way to the well-being of society. According to planned economy, what happened? Individual disappeared. So the collectivity is more important than individuals. It means that we can sacrifice the interest of individuals for the interest of collectivity. According to the common good, it's different. Why? Because we cannot say that, first of all, we change saying what? We don't have individuals, but persons. This is an important thing. So there is a personalistic principle that we have in our constitution. So according to the common good, persons are important, and also the community is important. So we can sacrifice the interest of a person when it is important for the interest of the community. However, the community has in a certain way to compensate the person that is sacrificed, even if not today, but tomorrow, but we need a compensation. So we cannot say that persons are more important than community, and community is more important than person. It's like in a family. You cannot say, so when you stay in a family, you totally remove your personal interest. No. I have, as a father, my personal interest. And my community absolutely wants that I satisfy my personal interest. Because I'm happy for that. For instance, I dedicate the time to study for the course of fundamentals of business. This is an interest that I have. I cannot sacrifice this interest, say, okay, there is the family that is more important, so we have things to do. No, there is my interest to, for instance, study, to improve my teaching. I have an interest to follow my football team. So these are personal interests that do not disappear. But of course, it doesn't mean that I'm important more than my community. Also, my community is important. So I self-limit my freedom for the interest of the community. So the community take care of me and I take care of my community. This is the idea of common good. So that's why here we said what? That the Azienda has to create value for itself and for its stakeholders, and also the collectivity in general. Even so, I mean, not only primary stakeholders that are fundamental for the survival of the firm, because we have transactions, we have primary stakeholders, but also for secondary stakeholders. Now the second problem is, but how can we create value for all these stakeholders? This is the second problem, because once I say, okay, I have to create value for employees, it's normal. Yeah, of course, you have to, but in which way? And here, if for us, employees are persons, we don't create value for them just giving them money. They need more. They want to flourish. And so we have to contribute to their growth. using different types of goods, not only material, extrinsic material goods, but also intrinsic material goods. So I select, for instance, my employees, also considering what are the expectations for the level that they will do. And also for image goods and transcendent goods. These are all goods that for us are important in the sense of exchange with the firm. And also employees can contribute to the well-being of the community. For instance, giving to the community and to the colleagues their virtues. Not just labor, but also virtues. Or a way, for instance, a leadership style. So he's a good person. Look at him. He's very good in the way he leads others. And I learn. It's not only I receive money, but I learn from others. And the third element is connected to the time reference. For how long? In what time I have to create value? And here the answer is, don't say only in the long term, because also short term is important. I cannot think only to the long term. Why? In the long term, I want to contribute to the common good. But what about the short term? Sometimes, why the short term is important for the long term? Because I have in the long term a purpose to achieve, contribute to the common good. But in the short term, I have to fix the goals that are coherent with the long-term orientation. Sometimes the problem is also you as a student, you want to be very good students. You want to contribute to the common good. And what about the goals that you fix for today, for tomorrow? How much do you want to study? So sometimes we hope to be good persons, but the problem is that today we have to make an effort to achieve this finalism. So for how long we have to create value? We can say forever. We cannot give an answer in this case saying I want to create value for 3 years, 5 years. If one asks me as a father, you want to create value for your family for how long? What is my answer? Can I answer 3 years? 1 year? No, forever. Yeah, it's normal. So when you manage a firm, you stay in a firm, you say, for how long you want to create value? Forever. Because if we consider the firm as a person, we want to contribute to the well-being of this person forever. So, so remember that there are two elements that belong to the primary interest. The first is the production or useful goods and services. So don't say just produce goods and services, because it's not enough. You want useful goods, because if you have an organization that produces useless goods and services, so we cannot say that, but it's creating value for the collectivity, because this organization is paying, for instance, salary to employees. So we cannot say that, because the organization is useless. So you cannot create value. So you say, but I pay. So what is the problem? So suppose that I say, but we pay the salary to the employees. Why I'm not creating that? So one can say, but they are happy because you are paying them a salary. What is the thing that doesn't work? Yeah. So you are employees that stay in a useless organization, and I pay you a salary. But in a useless organization, it means what? Are you giving something to the firm? Are you giving something that creates value? Absolutely not. No. So you just receive money, but what you receive is not the compensation of the value that you are creating for the company. So this is the problem. So when we consider the behavior of stakeholders, we have to analyze the value that is exchanged with the firm. So stakeholder gives a value to the firm, and the firm has to recognize a similar value to stakeholders. We cannot have situations where stakeholders receive without giving, because it means that there is not value creation, but we are destroying value. Now, okay, so what are the theories, pay attention, that compose the primary interest of the Azienda? So the primary interest of the Azienda is a theory. That is an alternative considering now just for business entities, shareholder theory and stakeholder theory. The primary interest of the Azienda is a theory that derives from the intersections of three theories. What are the three theories that compose the primary interest of the Azienda? Let me start with the two theories. Stakeholder theory. So the first theory that I want to mention is the stakeholder theory. According to the stakeholder theory, the firm has to create value for stakeholders, right? Now, why the firm has to create value for stakeholders? What is the reason why? So, if I consider the primary interest of the Azienda, you remember, we have to create value for who? For stakeholders, but it's not enough. So, for sure, stakeholder theory is a part of the primary interest of the Azienda, but it's not enough. So, according to the stakeholder theory, what is the reason why I have to create value for stakeholders?
Because they are human beings.
There are two approaches. One is normative, and the second is instrumental. According to the instrumental view of the stakeholder theory, I have to create value for stakeholders because it's the best way to create value for not for the firm, but for the shareholders. Pay attention. Pay attention. Because Freeman said, if you really want to create value for shareholders, you have to create value for stakeholders. Because in this way, you create value for shareholders, not just in the short term, but also in the long term. Now, and for the normative view, we have what? That according to the stakeholder theory, you have to create value for stakeholders because it's the right thing to do. Now, the problem is, when we consider the stakeholder theory from the normative point of view, the question is, but why? Why we have to create value for stakeholders? Why we say that is the right thing to do? What is the theoretical foundation? It's not just, okay, is the right thing to do? Someone could say, no, this is not the right thing to do. It's just instrumental. Why is it the right thing to do? So, according to the common good theory that starts with Aristotle, then Tommaso d'Aquino, and then the social doctrine of the church, we have to create value for stakeholders because stakeholders are humans, and humans cannot be instruments. They are always ends. So this is the theoretical foundation, according to that. So why I stay here and I have to create value for you? Because you are humans. So for me, no difference between a public university and a private university. It doesn't depend on that, because in front of me, I have humans. It's not just a contract. So if I stay in a private, my behavior is different compared to the public because it's a contract. No, I have in front of me persons. So you as a student, as a person, deserve my respect. So according to the common good theory, first of all, we cannot say that humans are individuals, but they are persons. So stakeholders are persons. So we have to create value for them because it's the right thing to do. Moreover, according to the common good theory, the firm can be seen as a community of persons. So we have persons and a community of persons. And here, so we have what I said before. We have to create value for the Azienda, that is a community, and also for stakeholders that compose this community. So this is the idea. Now, let me show you the other parts. Now, so if we have this intersection between stakeholder theory and common good theory, we said what? Doing good because it is ethically right. Why we have to do good for stakeholders? Because it's ethically right. So here we have Argandoña, that is a professor of the IESE Business School in Barcelona, that elaborate this intersection between stakeholder theory and common good theory. However, there are some Italian scholars of the economia aziendale that study this intersection, even if in an indirect way. For instance, Professor Masini and Professor Onida. Then we have the equilibrium theory. Equilibrium theory is a theory that was elaborated by Professor Aldo Amaduzzi in 1948. Professor Aldo Amaduzzi was one of the pupils of Professor Gino Zappa, the founder of the economia aziendale. And Professor Amaduzzi was the master of my professor, Professor Cavalieri. According to Professor Amaduzzi, so of course the focus according to the economia aziendale is the Azienda, the institute. So the Azienda is an institute. It means that it's separated from stakeholders. And Professor Amaduzzi gives us what? The conditions that allow, pay attention to just the first business entities to survive and grow. So Professor Amaduzzi said in 1948, what are the conditions, the equilibrium conditions to achieve in order to allow firms to survive and grow. And according to Professor Amaduzzi, firms survive when they achieve simultaneously three equilibriums: economic equilibriums, financial equilibriums, and monetary equilibrium. Let me briefly explain these three equilibriums that we better describe more ahead. So economic equilibrium, in order to survive, firms, business, pay attention, the equilibrium conditions of Professor Amaduzzi is only referred to business entities. So entities that operate in the market. So if they want to survive, they have to, in the long term, to achieve the economic equilibrium. It means that they have to make profit. So doesn't matter according to, so the economic equilibrium is a difference between a flow of revenues and a flow of cost. According to Professor Amaduzzi, to survive, you have to achieve in the long term the economic equilibrium. So the flow of revenues should be higher than the flow of cost in the long term, not in the short term. Because according to the economia aziendale, it doesn't matter if in the short term you don't have revenues that are higher than cost. What's the problem? Why you don't? So it's not a problem when revenues are lower than cost, but you are operating with. Very good. When you are operating with economicità. So you are operating with economicità and you are fixing goals that in the short term increase the level of cost, because you are investing in research and development, because you are investing in new machinery, equipment. Doesn't matter today. So if you, in the short term, you have to sacrifice the revenues, or better, if you have to increase the cost to have a better profit in the future, you can say that the loss is an investment for the future. So according to Professor Amaduzzi, you have to achieve the economic equilibrium in the long term, but it's not enough. There is another equilibrium that is fundamental. So before going to the financial and monetary equilibrium. So according to the primary interest of the Azienda, that is linked to the equilibrium theory, why profit is important. So we don't marginalize the profit, because according to the Economia Aziendale, the profit is fundamental in order to allow the firm to survive and grow. This is according to the equilibrium theory. So the risk, as I said, is that the stakeholder theory marginalizes the profitability of the firm, saying it's important to create value for stakeholders. And what about what is the how you posit the profit? Where is the profit? What is for you the profit? But we cannot say that just profit is important for the survival and growth of the firm, because there is another equilibrium that we have to achieve, the financial equilibrium. In the second part of this course, you study the elements to find the economic, financial, and monetary equilibrium. What is the financial equilibrium? It's referred to what? Mainly, I want just summarize some aspects. You are in financial equilibrium where you don't have too much debt, financial debt. Because if, for instance, you have a good profit, but you have an enormous debt, what is the risk? It is that if something happens, you are not able to repay the debt, even if you have a good profitability. Suppose that, for instance, during the COVID, you have to stop your production process for 1 year, and you have an enormous debt. So the risk is that you go in financial distress. It's easy. It's like, for instance, I have a good salary. Suppose that I want to buy a house, spending, for instance, 2 million to buy a house, having an enormous debt. 2 million. Can I afford that debt? Yes or no? One could say it depends on the salary. Suppose that I have a salary that is just sufficient to pay the money every month. It's just, what could be the risk? What could be the risk? I have just the money to repay every month that debt. What is the risk? If something happens, because for instance, I lose my job, I don't have money to reimburse the debt. And what is the problem? I have the bank said, now, if you are not able, you have to do what? You have to sell your house. And for the firm, what is the risk? That the firm, if the firm doesn't have money, have to close. So the second equilibrium that is fundamental is the financial equilibrium. Not too much debt. And you study also the financial condition of the firm. The third equilibrium is the monetary equilibrium. According to the monetary equilibrium, you should have enough money to pay every day the debt that you have. Every day. It means what? I have a good salary. I have an enormous debt with the bank, but I don't have to repay tomorrow the entire debt. But what about today? Do I have enough money, for instance, to do shopping? to buy food, the firm has enough money, for instance, to pay the supplier of today, the salary to the employees. So you have a monetary equilibrium when the flow of cash or cash flow is the cash flow in is able to cover the cash flow out. So you have enough money every day to pay suppliers, all stakeholders of the firm. Now, so these are the three equilibriums given by Professor Amaduzzi. Why we have here Professor Cavalieri? Because in 2010, Professor Cavalieri said, my master, Professor Amaduzzi, elaborate the theory of equilibrium, but just for business entities. I want to give a new definition of equilibrium theory that could be applied also to non-business entities. So, Professor Cavalieri said, we can, for instance, consider these three equilibrium conditions also for a public administration, but also for a non-for-profit organizations, for instance, for an association, a benefit associations or a benefit foundations. Now, what is the problem? Can we say that the or public administration or public university has to achieve a profit to survive? Is it correct? No. Why? Because it's impossible for public administrations to have profit. Why? Because they don't have revenues. They don't sell. They give for free their production. So Professor Cavalieri changed the idea of economic equilibrium, saying what? Organizations have an economic equilibrium when, not when revenues are higher than costs. This is just for firms in the long term, but when the value of production, is higher than the value of the factors that are consumed in the production process. Suppose that, for instance, you stay here, public university, and you receive, for instance, this service for free. Okay? And the university has cost for 100. So this is the value of factors that we are consuming in this production process. You receive this service for free. So you don't pay. What is the profit for the university? Do we have profit? We have losses. Can we say that we are not creating value? Good. No. Why? Because we are producing value through our service. But this value that we are producing is not identified by the revenues because we don't sell. We give the service for free. So we have to understand, not through revenues, but in another way, what is the value of production that we are producing now. So if using some instrument in order to understand this value that is produced by the public university, we have a value that is equal to 200, according to Professor Cavalieri. Also, the public administration is achieving the economic equilibrium. So we have a value that is 200, that is higher than the value of input consumed in the production process. So let me now show you what is the meaning of the intersection between stakeholder theory and the equilibrium theory. According to this intersection, we have to take care of stakeholders. Why? Because it's convenient for whom? If we take care of these stakeholders, it's convenient for whom? For the Azienda. Pay attention. Is it different from saying that we create value? So this is an instrumental way, right? So it's not like in this way. So here we are saying what? That we are creating value for stakeholders because it's convenient for the Azienda. Is different comparing to say that we want to create value for stakeholder just for increase the value for shareholder. Is that different? Yes or not? Absolutely. Yes, it's totally different. Why? Because if I ask you, and you are here an employee, you have to contribute to the value creation for the firm, for the community. Is it the same thing of saying you have to contribute to the profitability of just one member of the community? It's absolutely different. Because here we are saying to our, this is a way we communicate to our stakeholders. You are not, so suppose that I'm the owner, the shareholder, and I say, and you are the employees, you have to create value not for me, but you have to create value for us, for our community. Of course, I have also, as an owner, to contribute to the well-being of the community. Remember that Karl Marx said what? Capitalism doesn't work. Why? Because we have a conflict between two classes, labor and capitalists. Because he said what? In the long term, for sure, capitalists will use labor for its own interest. So it's better to eliminate capitalists. It's better that everyone is controlled by the state. Not two classes, but one class. So we have the collectivity that is the owners of the production process. All is controlled by the state. In this way, we don't have conflict. However, we know what are the limits of this kind of, so there are some advantages, of course, but we have also limits. Here, we are saying what? That owners are important, but they are not more important than labor. They are not more important. They both contribute to the well-being of the Azienda. And the Azienda is not an instrument of the owners to maximize its profitability. The Azienda is an institution, that wants, the Azienda wants to contribute to the common good. So here we have an instrumental approach of the stakeholder theory, but the company satisfy the interests of stakeholders in order to favor its survival and growth. Is it a common interest or not? Yeah, because all we want that the firm survive and grow, also employees. Now, if we are here doing good because it is convenient, why should I use the common good approach? So we have to create value for the community. The problem of why the common good theory is not sufficient, because the common good theory doesn't give us the conditions to achieve in order to allow the organization to survive and grow. So it's not sufficient. So that's why we need the equilibrium theory, because we want to understand what are the conditions that this community of persons has to achieve to survive and grow. So we want to create value for the community, so for the stakeholder, because it's the best way to achieve the conditions of value creation for the firm itself. Now, the primary interest of the Azienda allow us to reconcile the instrumental and normative approach. In the long term, safeguarding the survival and growth of the firm is the right thing to do in the interest of all stakeholders and the community. So we cannot say No, this is an instrumental view, it's a normative view. So one is instrumental, so it's not so good from the ethical point of view. No, there is a reconciliation. Why we have to create value for stakeholders? Because it's the right thing to do for them, but it's also the right thing to do for the survival and growth of the community, so of the firm. So there is not a conflict. There is not a conflict. So I cannot, it's like in the family, it's the same. Why I have to contribute, and why I have, for instance, why I have to achieve, give me the reason why, according to this approach, is important to make profit. Why profit is important? Is it now a dirty word? No, why? Because if I make profit, I allow what? The survival and growth of the firm, that is absolutely important for remunerate not just the actual, but also the future stakeholders. And all stakeholders wants to contribute in the long term to the value creation of the firm. Now, what is the limit of altruism and gratuity for others? This is the problem. Sometimes when we say, I think that this is a limit of the social doctrine of the church. Because when we say, so we have to be our limit, it doesn't consider, because here we don't have the economia aziendale. There are some important aspects, but it's not completely in line with the economia aziendale. So suppose that I have employees that ask for a higher remuneration. According to the stakeholder theory, do I have to satisfy this need? According to the stakeholder theory, what could say, but if the salary is not the right salary, you have to recognize this salary to the stakeholders, right? So according to the stakeholder theory, you have to recognize the good salary. So what we have to do? We have to increase the salary. But what is the problem? That today we don't have enough money to pay a higher salary, to the right salary to the employees. So what we do? We are a good entrepreneur, so we do what? We recognize this salary to the employees, even if the firm doesn't have the possibility, because the firm doesn't have money to do that. But you increase what in order to satisfy this request? The debt of the firm. But if you increase the debt of the firm, the financial debt of the firm, the risk is that you destroy the financial equilibrium. Too much debt. So, and what is the effect for the firm? Suppose that the firm, for instance, is able absolutely to support this financial debt. No problem. This is the right thing to do. But what about if the debt is too high for the firm? According to the equilibrium theory, sometimes you cannot satisfy all the requests of stakeholders. You have to decide. But you know that you have to give the employees the right salary. Why? Why you have to give them the right salary? And you want, as a leader for the common good, you know that is the right thing to do, because you are not recognizing what they deserve from the firm. So you absolutely want to do that, because as a community, you cannot sacrifice stakeholders just for the profitability of the firm or for the equilibrium. You have to satisfy them because it's the right thing to do. But today you don't have money. So what is the thing that you can do today, according to the common good theory and to the equilibrium theory? You don't have money. So, yeah? Good. So you talk with the employees, saying what? Suppose that you are the employees of this company, and I'm the CEO of the company. I know. I know how you feel today. You ask our company an increase of salary. We know that what you have today is not right. We know that. We know that there are some of you that are looking for other firms. Yeah, it's normal. What I can say that today we have a difficulty. Why? And I explain why. The difficulty is not because we don't have competent managers, because what you say in this case, substitute immediately the managers of the firm. Why they are here managing this firm if they are not able to do that? Pay attention to the responsibility. When you talk to the employees, you cannot say, I sacrifice you in order to satisfy managers that are not competent, but they are receiving a high salary. What you say is not correct. But suppose that you are doing your best. So today, as you know, we don't have a good conditions. Our managers, as you know, are reducing their salary. They are the first. They are reducing their salary. But what happened? Today, we have a new competitor that is very strong. So our managers are thinking to other ideas to safeguard all the employees. We will try to do that. What I can say is that tomorrow, but why you are saying all these things? For which theory? For the common good. That's why. If for you these persons are not important, probably you send them a message on WhatsApp. That's it. So you send a message, we say no to your request. We know that probably you are not able to change immediately your job, and that's it. And what is your reaction? So you decrease your productivity and so on, all the other consequences. In this case, you can say what? So we hope, so we will try this year. We will try this year to do our best. Next year, we will recognize you a higher salary, also to compensate what you are not receiving now. However, what can we give you this year? We called a professor at the University of Rome Tor Vergata to have a training course for you. It's for you, just for your growth. We pay him, and this is what we can do today. It's just that, no more. We are sorry. We are really sorry. What is so? First of all, what is the virtue I'm using in this case? Yeah. So empathy. When I start saying, I know how you feel. No? So I say what? That I'm with you, and I'm sacrificing also myself. I'm the first that I say this year, as a CEO, I decide to don't have a remuneration. If I say I don't change my situation, but you have to sacrifice, is that a community? No, it's not a community. So using these three theories, you can solve several problems, several ethical dilemmas that stakeholder theory, according to me, is not able to solve. And what is the equilibrium of interest? Is the equilibrium that I add to the three conditions given by Professor Amaduzzi. The equilibrium of interest is the equilibrium between the firm and its stakeholders. You achieve this equilibrium of interest when you give to these stakeholders a remuneration that is more or less, it's impossible to have a perfect situation. This is more or less in line with the contribute that stakeholders give to the firm. Pay attention that remunerations that you give to the stakeholders and contribute stakeholders give to the firm are not just economic, are not just external extrinsic goods. Because, for instance, some stakeholders could say, some employees, I want to work for this company even if the salary is not in line with the market conditions. So here I receive 2,000 euro a month. If I go to another company, I can receive 2,500 euro. But I want to stay here. Why? Because I receive from this firm good work conditions. I have good leaders. I'm growing I'm flourishing, not only from the economic aspect, but also from the moral aspect. This is a community, and I don't want to leave this community. So, the primary interest of the Azienda is the common good, the contribute that we can give to the common good. Of course, when we have in mind and we totally understand this primary interest, we can also measure the gap that we have between individual interest and the primary interest of the Azienda. This gap that we can have, for instance, between Azienda and owners. Sometimes owners want to use the Azienda for their own interest, sacrifice the equilibrium of interest with other stakeholders, or the economic equilibrium of the firm. Because, for instance, they are using the firm for their own interest, increasing the cost of the firm. But if we have this kind of behavior, as you can imagine, the owners are not responsible for the well-being of the company, but they want just to achieve their personal interest. What do you think? What do you think, guys? Is it complex? I think that is absolutely easy. This is what happened in a community. Suppose that I consider my family. I have to create value for all the family members. Why? Because they are persons, and I have to create value for them. And what about when my family member asks me to buy something? I say always yes. Yeah, what's the problem? Dad, I want a new computer, and I want a new bicycle, and I want my wife, I want a new house, I want. So there is the equilibrium condition that I have to maintain. What is the salary that we have? So what are the revenues that we have? What are the costs? What is the debt that we can have, the financial debt that we can support? So it's extremely easy. The difficult thing is that when we move from a family to a firm, we lose a lot of important aspects. So we don't recognize. So in a family, we know if we can spend money, what is the limit? What is the gratuity that we can deserve to others? Suppose that, is it important for us to, for instance, to give money to others? Some that are asking you, so please, can you give me money? So we give money to everyone. If we don't give money to everyone, it means that we are not good persons. This is the idea. If we give all our monies to others that have problems, we are not able to ourselves. So there is a limit that we cannot overcome. So can we contribute to others? Yeah, this is exactly what happened in a firm. Can I, for instance, increase the equilibrium condition? Can I increase, can I put in my strategic planning the social goals? Yeah, because I want to increase the equilibrium of interest. But what is the effect of these social goals on the other equilibriums? Because if I achieve social goals in order to increase the equilibrium of interest, because I want to solve the problem of the world, but I don't maintain the equilibrium, economic equilibrium, I will destroy the firm, and so I will not be able anymore to contribute to the common good. Okay? So, the purpose of the Azienda wants to be distinguished from the scope of the individual group of people that establish the Azienda. So, I can say that the purpose of the Azienda, so remember, the purpose, what is the purpose? Is the why the Azienda exists. And the Azienda exists, so first of all, to satisfy human needs. But we can say not only for that, but for the common good, to contribute to the common good, according to the economia aziendale. And if you want to contribute to the common goods, you don't have only to satisfy human needs, but you have also to create sustainable value. So, but why the entrepreneur, for instance, decide to establish an Azienda? We have a different interest. So, for instance, I want to satisfy needs because I want to make profit, right? But this is the interest of the entrepreneur. So we should be able to separate the purpose of the entrepreneur from the purpose of the Azienda. And let me, so this is Ferrero, one of the Italian scholars of the economia aziendale, and Ferrero said, the profit, even if it were at best the only stimulus for private initiative, could never constitute the objective of the business entity. So, pay attention. The profit, even if the only motivation of whom? Of the entrepreneur. Suppose that you are elaborating your business idea because you are motivating just because of profit. You want just that. Okay, it's coherent with the capitalism idea, it's absolutely coherent, but you have to say, this is my purpose, my main purpose, so the end is the profit. What is the instrument that I use to make profit? What is the instrument? So this is the base of capitalism. If I want to make profit, I have to, but this is an instrument to make profit. Good. I have to satisfy needs. So this is at the base of capitalism. Why capitalism? Why we have a free market? Because the state said, no, I cannot satisfy all the needs in an efficient way. I think that the market works better than me. So please, entrepreneurs, do your best, and if you satisfy the needs, you can maintain for you the profit. And say, okay, this is our motivation. This is at the base of capitalism. But according to the economia aziendale, we change this aspect. We say that firm exists to satisfy needs, and the profit, so the end is a satisfaction of human, the purpose is satisfaction of human needs, and the profit is the instrument, not the end, is an instrument that allows the firm to continue to operate and satisfy human needs. Now, so this is my first book on primary interest of the Azienda, published in 2017. Let me, before, so the why, what is the why, the purpose of the Azienda? The why of the Azienda, its purpose, is the why of customers and users. Okay? even if the why you want to establish the agenda is to make profit. This is your why. It's good. This is at the base of capitalism. It could be also the only why that you have. But you have your azienda that is an institution according to the economia aziendale. And the azienda wants to satisfy the needs of the customers and users. So for you, satisfaction of needs is an instrument to make profit. For the azienda is the purpose. Okay? Now let me, here in this slide, I put one of the sentence of Professor Adam Smith. Was a Scottish philosopher that is for us fundamental because Adam Smith talked about the liberalism, the importance of free market and egoism in capitalism. And he said what? Do you remember? It's not the first time that I read that. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. So when I want to buy food, I don't go to the shop saying, please, I need. So you can you give me because I need? I give the food because you pay. Thus, the butcher, the brewer, and the baker want to satisfy the needs of their clients because they can earn profit from those activities. And this is exactly in line with capitalism. Is that good or not? It's capitalism. But what is the problem? That if we consider that the end of the owners is also the end of the firm, what if, for instance, in order to make profit, we have to cheat our clients or users? What is the interest that prevails? It's our interest, because the firm exists to do our interest. There is not a separation. And this is this sentence that is reviewed considering the primary interests of the azienda. So now we are the clients of the, so we are observing the firms of the butcher, the brewer, and the baker. Butchers, brewers, and bakers business. So the firm want to contribute to our dinner. Is it clear here? So the firm as an institution wants to contribute to our dinner needs by providing products that can satisfy our desires. That's why these firms exist. So who wants that? Who wants that? Who wants that these firms satisfy our needs? Who wants? So the firm exists because it has to satisfy our needs as customers. Who wants that? The state. The state say, so I allow you, so I allow the free market because the free market is an instrument to satisfy needs. So the state wants to contribute to the common good and decide for liberalism, for free market, because it could be the best way to satisfy the needs of clients and users. Now, this is their purpose, the purpose of the institutions. Such businesses must think not only about us as clients, as a customers, but also about providing fair compensation to their owners, employees, and all other stakeholders, suppliers, and so on. So here we are saying what? That the primary interest of this firm is not just to satisfy our needs. So I cannot, for instance, go in a restaurant and say, so I want to satisfy my needs, but I don't want to pay. Why? because this is not the interest of the institution. Even if, pay attention, suppose that the owners say what? But they are my friends. They are my friends. The clients are my friends. So I want that they don't pay for the dinner. This is the interest of whom? This is the interest of the owner, but it's not the interest of the firm, of the Azienda. Because the interest of the Azienda is to give to clients a good dinner, but also to satisfy not just the interest of the owner is, I don't want to be paid for that. But you want also to satisfy the interest of the suppliers, and you have to pay the suppliers. Unless you can do what? As an owner, and it's perfect. You pay, so with your money, you put your money in the firm and say, okay, are you free to do that? Yeah, absolutely, what's the problem? You put money and you pay the dinner. So the Azienda say, okay, you pay for the dinner of your friends. What's the problem? It's okay. As well, creating profit for themselves. So what this is fundamental for the Italian economia aziendale, because when we say profit, there is a part of the profit that is for the owners. This is the dividend. But the idea is that if you have a high profit, a part is for the owner and a part is for the Azienda itself. So you have to maintain the profit in the Azienda because it's a way to self-finance the continuity of the Azienda. Now, if the profit, according to the economia aziendale, the profit is what remains in the Azienda. So you can have a positive result because revenues minus cost is equal to 100. Is equal to 100. What is the right remunerations to give to the owners? Suppose that the right remuneration, even if they decide, the dividends, you have to recognize the right dividend is 70. So you have revenues higher than cost, and this difference is 100. The right remuneration of the owners is 70. But why you have 100? Why you have an extra income? Why? For instance, because your employees have more productivity compared to others. Because your suppliers are, for your firm, give to your firm more than they give to others. So, if I say that I have a positive income, revenues higher than cost for 100, and I say the right remuneration of the owners is 70, 30 is the remuneration of whom? Is the remuneration of the Azienda. But if I remunerate the Azienda, it means that I'm remunerating the community. So, who are these stakeholders that are interested in the profitability of the firm? Who are these stakeholders that want that the profit 30 remain in the firm? All, because through the profit that remain in the Azienda, I increase the probability of the Azienda to survive and grow. And all are satisfied for that. So, if I use the Italian doctrine, economia aziendale, I can remove the ideology from profit. So the profit is not just for the right part, say the profit is good, is every time is good, and for the left side, profit is a dirty word. According to the economia aziendale, we can put together the economic and social aspects. So, and now let me recall what I said probably 1 week ago, when some said to me, but why you are using economia aziendale in your courses? There are international theories. Why you don't use the shareholder theory? Students are in a course that is international, so you have to teach them international theories. but I'm autonomous. And I want to judge in an autonomous way. I don't want to follow the majority, the dominant thinking. Say, this is the right thing to do. No, because I truly believe that the economia aziendale, even if, of course, international studies are important because the model of the primary interest of the Azienda is not just the part of the economia aziendale. There is the stakeholder theory, social doctrine. So I put together all these things. And of course, this is what I said to my students, also to you. If for you there is something that it doesn't work, please tell me. Because one could say, but in this case, the theory doesn't work. So it cannot be a principle. So if it's not a principle, I have to revise. So I have to say thank you to all the persons that in the past, my students at the university, but also all managers that in my previous theories said. So for instance, there was a time that I said, I appreciate stakeholder theory because, and some managers said, how can you manage our firm using stakeholder theory? These are the problems that we have. Now, using stakeholder theory, try to solve this dilemma. I'm sorry, I don't know how can I do. Okay, so I have to revise this. So I try to compensate the stakeholder theory with others. So it's a continuous evolution. That's why we cannot grow if we don't interact with others. And even the feedback is fundamental for that. If you don't like something, we are at the university, and this is a fantastic because we are all free to say what we want. You can also say, we don't agree. Professor, suppose that we have this situation. How can we solve this situation with the primary interest of the Azienda? Do you have the elements to solve this problem? If not, if it's not coherent, it means that I have to change. What's the problem? I cannot say, oh, I love the primary interest of the Azienda, so I cannot change that because I fixed the idea. Full stop. No, it's an evolution. It's now about 6 years that I try to change, but it seems to be, for me, it seems to be perfect, but it's my main limitation. I want that someone say, Professor, you can improve in this way. So it's good. Okay, now, so here you have the representation of what could happen when you have the primary interest of the Azienda, that is the orientation of the common good, and the particular interest of the controlling party, mainly the owners. So in this case, we have the interest of the owners, for instance, so the entrepreneur, that is absolutely in line with the primary interest of the Azienda. But in some cases, there is the particular interest of the controlling party that is absolutely different. We have an enormous gap. There is a high distance between the interest of the owners and the interest of the Azienda. Tell me, according to you, what is the case? Well, the distance is maximum. In case of? So the interest of the owner is, there is an enormous gap. So the firm wants to contribute to the common good. And the owners goes against, absolutely against the common good. Criminal organizations. So for criminal organizations, of course, the interest of the owners is to go against, absolutely against the common good. Now, in addition, so we don't have only the why to produce, that is satisfaction of human needs, but we have also the how to produce. It's simple. Why? The how to produce is connected to the business model of the firm that we have already analyzed. So the how to produce is the way we acquire the capital, different types of capital, manufacturer capital, financial capital, social and relation. Do you remember? This is the representation of the how to produce. how we acquire this capital, how we transform into output, and what are the outcomes that we have. So we have the how, now we have the why, and then we have the what we produce. For instance, if I consider two automotive companies, Ferrari and Peugeot, do they have the same what? They produce cars. They have the same what? Do they have the same why? So in the sense that, do they satisfy the same needs and wants? No, absolutely. So the why is different, and for you it's important to describe in the mission statement the why of your business. But if it's different, the why, it means that for sure will be different also the how to produce, because the how you produce a Ferrari probably is different from the how you produce a Peugeot. Okay? Useless economic entities. What are the useless economic entities? So, economic entities or organizations or agenda are useless when they do not satisfy human needs. So, if they are useless, it means that they are not contributing to the common good. The common good is what the economics now want, not just satisfying needs. But it's important. If you don't satisfy needs, you are not contributing to the common good. However, you can satisfy human needs without creating value. So I satisfy needs, yeah, of course. I'm a public administration. I'm satisfying needs. But why you are not creating value? Creating value is connected to the difference between the value that you produce for the citizens, for customers and users, and the value of resources that you consume in the production process. Why are you destroying value? Because you are not operating with economicità. Because, for instance, you are not efficient. You create the products, goods and services for customers and users. So you are creating them, but not in an efficient way. So you are destroying value. And if you destroy value, you cannot exist. So what happens normally? That when firms don't satisfy, so when business entities satisfy needs, but without creating value, what happens? Because, for instance, they don't achieve the economic equilibrium, because they are not able to make profit, what happens? They will fail, because they operate in the market. If they don't make profit, they fail. Now, what happens when a public administration satisfies needs without creating value? Because the value of the resources that are consumed in the production process is absolutely higher than the value produced by the production process. What happened? Suppose that, for instance, in order to have a class like this, we invest just for this class, 1 million. We have 1 million of cost. And the value produced by this class every year is equal to 10,000 euro. And you say, but we are satisfied because we are happy for the courses that we have. Yeah, you are satisfied, but we are destroying value. Why? Because we are consuming 1 million of resources, and the value we are creating, or the value produced, is just 10,000. So we are destroying resources while we should exist. It means that there is probably another organization that allows you to satisfy needs, but having a value that is produced that is higher than the value consumed in the production process. Okay. Now, just a few minutes to go in the pay attention to this first formula. This is, please, and we better describe this formula tomorrow. Pay attention because normally you find this condition in the written exam. This is the value creation. When we say, pay attention, that all Azienda has to create sustainable value. Now we want to explore this condition. First of all, we start with value creation, not sustainable, but just value creation. We create value when? This is for all entities, business entities and non-business entities. Here we have the summation from T0 to TZ. This is the entire lifetime of the Azienda. So the summation of the value of production. So the value that we produce. So for instance, now in this class, the university is producing value. What is the value that we are producing? The service that we are of education that we are giving. This is the value of production. Should be equal to what? The summation from T0 to TZ for the entire lifetime of the Azienda of the value of input, so the factors of production consumed in the production process. Should be so equal to the value of the factors consumed in the production process plus what? The value created by the combination process. It means that if the value of production is higher than the value of factors that are consumed in the production process, we are creating value. And we want so a positive results here. Tomorrow we will focus. So this is, remember, if you find a question like this, is this condition valid for just business entities? The answer is no, because it's also valid for non-business entities. Tomorrow we will focus the attention on business entities. But before going, there are two of your colleagues that want to talk about a good opportunity that is starting finance. So they want to stay just 5 minutes, no more 10 minutes, no more. So please stay, because I think it's absolutely a good opportunity for all of you. Okay, so please.